You know, the problem with these action figures is they don't look like us.
Not at all.
I mean, I don't care if the body stays that way, but it's the heads that have to change. The problem is there's nothing we can really do about it.
But the shipment we just got.
Knife. I have always wanted my own custom action figure, specifically my head on a more interesting body. So with us starting our pit display project, it seemed like a more pivotal time than ever to create our own action figures to fit inside that world. This led to an interesting collaboration with RebelPoint and a chance for us to try their Pop 3 3D scanner. They were kind enough to send us one of these to try, and the timing was perfect. This would give us a chance to test out the scanner, as well as capture our likeness that we could eventually print and put on an action figure that we have in our collection. But before we get into the action figure creation, let's start with the scanner itself, kind of take you through what it does, how it works, and then we'll try to scan our faces and see how well this goes. Now, I've got the software all set up on my laptop, and then I've got a little rig set up. Here's the actual scanner. It also comes with a little adapter here that you can utilize your phone with, and it locks in place, and then you can attach that to the scanner. We'll try that in a little bit. We're going to set up the camera, and then we're going to run a scan of a model that they send along with the scanner to do a little test drive on. You can see in this lower left-hand corner, it's giving me kind of a live view as I adjust. I get that camera positioned. We're going to let it scan several laps around. Try to get up into that 400 to 450 frames of scanning. And now that's given me one full scan. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay the object down because I want to be able to scan the bottom of it. All right, we got all that scanned, and now we're going to start a new scan one last time. Flip the object over on its face. Okay, now that we've got all the scans done, we have three different models here. And what we're going to do is take and we're going to fuse these models. So I'm going to start with the bottom one, let it run through its process, and it'll completely fuse this particular model, this scan. Now, I probably should point out that this isn't going to be a full tutorial on how to do this. I'll leave links in the description to their website that has all the different tutorials on how to do it with all their different products. We're just kind of diving in to kind of get a feel for how the scanning works, and then we'll move into scanning some other objects, and specifically our faces. Okay, now all three of these have essentially been meshed, if you will. And you can see, like on this one here where it's laying down on its face, this gray area is empty. And the same thing would be true for this one that was laying on its back. And then this one here, we've got pretty much a clean mesh with the exception of the bottom and the nose and such. So what we can do is we can head on over to Merge, and we can select all three of our meshes, and it'll lay them in the orientation, and then we can preview the alignment of this. And what that's going to do is take all those different meshes and bring them into one unit, and with a little luck, we should have a complete mesh. So now let's do what we started out to do, and let's scan some faces. You gotta be very still. You can put your arm down to your side. Okay.
Weird.
It's very strange. Okay, the process of scanning each other was not only some of the best times I've had in the shop with Carissa, it was also a learning curve. When we scanned the model on the turning table, the camera itself was stationary and the model moved. However, when we switched to scanning each other's faces, not only was the camera moving, but we were also moving, even though we were trying our best to stay as still as possible. For the most part, I found some aspects to be super successful and others were more challenging. For example, when we were scanning Carissa's hair, we learned really quickly that the filming lights we use in the shop for our videos was causing certain parts of it to be too dark. So we had to kick on the overhead fluorescence in order to be able to get enough light coverage around her hair for the scanner to pick it up. And even then, there were a lot of dark shadows. Her hair has everything from purple to dark black, and so some of those areas didn't scan as successful. One area that I kind of failed in was in using the scanner. I would start a scan, and then I would pause that scan. And then I would let Carissa or myself take a break, and then we would restart the scan. The scanner itself picks up tracking and actually does a really great job of finding the orientation of the figure.
Oh, I like that. That is gonna own it. Own it. Oh.
But the problem is I should have scanned a section, stopped, created a new scan, scanned a different section, and repeated that process, similar to what we did with the small model on the turntable. Then we could have taken all of those different scans and put them together to give us one complete mesh. So as a result, at the end of the day, I had a little bit of a mess and wasn't sure what to do with it. So I turned to my good friend James at the Rebel Base Builds, who's a 3D model mastermind. And I was able to give him the scans we had, and he was able to take those and fix and correct the errors I generated as a result of my poor scanning. And he was able to give us a result that we can then take to our 3D printer. Okay, before we jump in and show you the result of the printing process, we wanted to show you a tad more about the scanning. I reached out to RebelPoint with the problems we were having, and they were able to give me some tips. So we went back to the scanner, this time using the mobile app with the scanner. We put Carissa in a swivel chair, and we went after it again. This time around, with Carissa's hair pulled slightly back, we were able to let the scanner see her neck and ears, and that rich texture allowed the scanner to achieve a much more comprehensive scan of her hair. This really improved my confidence not only in the scanner and the software, but the technique to get it done. Now there's still some blemishes and things on her face that I'd like to clean up, and I'll probably have to do that in another 3D software to get it perfect. But overall, this was much more successful than my first go around.
Okay, do you want to see something really cool? Check this out. Right there, my friends, is my tiny little face. I say tiny, but hang on. How about that for tiny? If you thought this one was tiny, this one is even smaller. We were able to get both Carissa and my head, our heads, printed out. And we did it in 3 different ways. I was struggling a little bit with the scale in the Slicer software to get it exactly right to match that of an action figure that we had. So I print them at 3 different sizes so I could get one that's close. It turns out that this scale here actually seemed to be about right.
What if I'm not sure I want this one?
I got you covered. Take your pick.
Oh, I want this one.
It's from Indiana Jones. The helmet.
Oh yeah.
The skull helmet.
Bump shimmy, or whatever.
Okay, one aspect that I didn't take into account, I thought about it and just didn't have time to deal with it, is the fact that an action figure like this has a hole here and a peg inside the head. This isn't traditional of most. Like for example, on her, I believe she has a post. Nope, she's the same. But several other action figures, they actually have a little ball at the top of their neck there, and there's a hole inside the head, and that's how they snap together. We don't have any of that. It's just a solid piece. So for this round of action figure making, because I no doubt there will be more, I'm going to basically take a Dremel tool and adjust this a little bit, maybe a blade and a Dremel, and adjust the head, and probably glue it in place more permanently. I can't glue it up on top now because then it just looks like I have a really long neck. But that's something to consider with the scans, going in there, adjusting the mesh, providing either a hole or a pin, like little Obi-Wan's head right here. So we're gonna have to deal with that. The funny thing is, Obi-Wan's body here is a lot smaller than mine, obviously, but my head is pretty gargantuan because it's a chubby geek's head. But I think we'll make it work. All right, so I glued this on, and it's pretty decent. Like I said, it's a chubby geek's head on a skinnier body. Now there's some things that could be done. You can see right here around the neck. You could take some milliput or some green stuff and make some little worms, and then you could tuck those in there and smooth it out, and then it would air dry, and that would transition the head to the body a lot better than what I've got here. I'm probably going to add some kind of accessory of some kind. I think Obi-Wan had a cape here. I'm going to look through the box, and I'll put something in there that kind of helps smooth that transition down. But the first thing I need to do is get his head painted.
So with Carissa's figure, since we printed it before we rescanned her head, we simply added this scarf hood detail from another figure to cover up the lack of hair. This will work for right now, but we'll reprint her new scanned face that's smoothed out without the blemishes, as well as her hair, and add that to the figure at a later time.
Pointy nose.
You have a little pointy nose.
Okay, at the end of the day, the question is, was this project successful? And the answer, no, it wasn't. And yes, it absolutely was. This was such an interesting project to take on. I learned so much about using a scanner to capture a 3D image. The RevoPoint scanner did a great job, but as we played around with it more, I learned the different techniques to make that work better for us. So this is definitely version 1.0, and there will be a version 2, probably 3, and maybe even 4 because it was so much fun to do. There's a lot to learn with this, but I think there's a lot of potential to be able to do some really fun and creative things when it comes to creating your very own action figure. I want to get better at the kit bashing, for example. And we definitely need to scan with the glasses on, because that's driving me crazy that it's not there. We want to give a huge thanks to James from the Rebel Base Builds for helping us with our 3D modeling needs. And thank you to RevoPoint for sponsoring today's episode. If you want to check out their product or other products that they have on their site, there's links in the description. And if you use this code, you'll save an extra 10% on your purchase. So that's it for us. Please hit the subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, the thumbs up really helps us a lot, and we'll see you the next time we build something out of nothing.